Hello and a huge warm welcome. My name is Lorraine Davies and I am the host of this summit, The Expansion. Unleash your infinite potential and reclaim the power within. I am so thrilled to introduce you to today's guest expert, the gorgeous AmyLee Westervelt. So AmyLee is a certified clinical hypnotherapist and master Neuro Energetics practitioner. She pulls on an extensive knowledge to create powerful coaching experiences for each of her clients. As the founder of Gratitude and Glamour, AmyLee has the gift to not only see your greatest potential, but she has the compassion and patience to help nurture your gifts into the world for all to see. In 2022, she founded Erogetics Discipline, which is what is the focus of this conversation today, and I'm literally so excited for. So through Erogetics, AmyLee helps her clients reconnect to their inner masculine lover so they can create and receive their deepest desires. Oh my goodness, AmyLee, so such a huge warm welcome to you. I am thrilled to have you here on the Expansion Summit.
I am so excited to be here. Your vibe is just so delicious. And I want to let you know it's 12/12 here, which is an angel number. So we've got some really delicious stuff coming. I already know.
Oh, I cannot wait. I cannot wait. So before we get into the juiciness of what you do, because I think, I would just love to highlight before we even get into today, the work you do, I feel is so unique and so potent. And I'm so excited for you to share it with the world, starting out here. But I would love to understand a little bit about your own journey and kind of certainly your most recent expansion.
Yeah. So to start with the journey part, I've been coaching for a while. I started by coaching empaths and highly sensitives. And then I kind of started to branch out and I recognized that I wanted to coach that community, but I didn't necessarily want to coach them in being an empath or being highly sensitive. I wanted to help them do something. And one of the things I noticed that was a pattern with my clients that were empaths, highly sensitives, neurodivergents, special people was that they had a hard time being able to dream because of the fact that there was a lot of overwhelm and a lot of guilt, right? And so that was kind of where I started. And so that was the community that I worked with. And then as I started to deepen my relationship with these clients, I noticed that there was almost like this spark that was missing. And so I started to go the way of the masculine and feminine dyad and kind of divine union and like this idea of like, connect to your spouse and connect to the universe and all this stuff. And what ended up happening was my husband did this 40-day water fast and he didn't eat anything. We literally just surviving on water. I know. I don't even know how I didn't kill him, but I didn't. And he just receded so deeply into himself when that happened. And here I was talking about connection and relationships and throwing myself into this, duality of masculine and feminine. And the thing that I was in relationship with pretty much disappeared. He shriveled and went inside himself. And even though he was sleeping in the bed next to me, he was not there. And I had to figure out, what am I going to do? I'm not going to cheat on him, but I also know that I have now become dependent on this energy. And it was then that this energy that I needed kind of came out from inside of me and was like, I'm right here. You already have that within. This is a nice to have. And this is already built in. And that's where I started to connect with, what I call Eros, the inner masculine lover of mine. And it was beautiful. And we had this beautiful connection. It was almost like having an imaginary friend that like had the hots for you, And then once my husband came back from his fast, I wasn't resentful. I wasn't angry. I wasn't like, you shouldn't, like, I let him have the ordeal that he needed to have. And I was so filled up and it was such a beautiful experience. And then I was doing some research and it come to find out for thousands of years, this has been a thing. And going back to, like ancient Greece, people were doing something like this. If you've ever heard the terminology hieros gamos, it refers to holy matrimony, but what it really meant was to essentially marry the energy of divinity inside of you and to recognize that partnership internally. So it was very serendipitous the way it happened. But since I've immersed myself into this world, it really hasn't been the same.
Oh my goodness. I get so excited, and I get the full body, like, you know, the hairs on the end when you talk about this work, because, you know, I think it's when we're talking about a topic such as expansion, and we're thinking about all the things we want to create in our outer world, you know, for many people that, you know, having an amazing, beautiful, divine union of some kind is probably in there, right? But the challenge comes is when you're looking outside of yourself, and the work that you do is bringing you back to that divine masculine lover inside of you. And that is so powerful, because it's, again, this recognition of it's already inside, and that when you're doing this work inside of you, you can truly show up as all of you in every area of your life and in your relationships. Okay, so I am like dying to know all about, like, literally all about this. So you've obviously been on this really deep, immersive experience for yourself. But how does this kind of transfer to when you're working with clients? Like, where does it even start?
Okay, so where it really starts is getting the client to understand that old adage, as within, so without, as above, so below. Most of the time, clients that come to me are either looking for some expansion or, you know, an activation of some kind, or they're looking to change something in their lives that they don't feel like is in alignment with their desire. And a lot of times, clients are completely disconnected from their desires to begin with, right? So if you think about when we're young and we just, you know, my daughter's 11. And yesterday I was curling her hair in the bathroom just for fun. And she said to me, Mom, I want to listen to the Miraculous soundtrack. And I'm like, oh, okay. And I'm like, oh gosh, it's one of those Barbie movie, you know, type things that you listen to. And it's, you know, it's sappy or whatever. But I'm watching as my daughter's like, Mom, and this is where she fell in love with him. And this is where he told her that he loved her. And she was so into it. Now, my daughter is 11 years old, and she's a young 11. We're homeschoolers. So she, you know, she hasn't like blossomed beyond, but she understands the concept of love and desire without the sexual component. That didn't come in for any of us until it did. And especially for women, you know, hopefully it takes a while for that to happen, but the seed of desire happens way before that. And it's this lust for life, this excitement, this joy, this, I could do this all day. And we all have that as youths, as young women. And then what happens is we go off, we've got that wedding, we got the dress, it was like the tantamount moment of our lives when everybody was looking at us. And then it's almost like that never happens again. And we no longer feel like we're allowed to need or to desire that seed, because now we're married. We've got that beautiful rock on our finger. He's holding our hand. And then as time goes on and we have the babies and everything else, we lose sight of that seed. And that seed of desire is actually life force. It's what creates the reason for living. It's the thing that makes us all want to get up every day and grab life by the horns and all these things. And so many women don't have that happening for them anymore. So what do? They look to the outside field for what I call like snacks to fill up that meter that feels like they're starving. They go in like, how come I don't have any clients? I need more clients. You know, how come my spouse doesn't want to cuddle with me anymore? How come my cat won't sit in my lap? And so they're creating this energy of desperation because they're not making it internally anymore. So what Erogetics allows you to do is to get back into that spark, that like, oh my gosh, she's looking at me like so that desire feeling, to churn up that energy again, so that we're now a self-sustaining system. So instead of going, I need, and pulling from the field, we're creating internally. And then guess what happens? When you don't need anything, everything wants you. Now, all of a sudden, your spouse is like, hey, babe, can I get you something? Can I do? Because you're not creating that vacuum of energy. You're just spilling with abundance. You're spilling with magnetism. And so the clients are coming. The cat wants to see, the cats are fighting to sit in your lap, right? It's like, I sat in her lap last time, you sat in her lap. right? They're fighting over this. Your spouse is like falling all over themselves to take care of you and to take care of your needs. You're coming back to that place at the beginning when it was like, oh my gosh, I just want to look at him. Like, if you ever think about when you watch movies, like romantic movies, and it's like, they don't care if they buy a big house in the suburbs. They don't really care if she gets the dream job. They'll live in a cardboard box as long as they get to look at each other. That energy is where it started. So that's where I take clients back to. We got to get back in there and wake that stuff up. We've got to wake up that energy. And one of the ways that we do that is to remind you that there is still very much a culture of desire going on inside of you. Now, whether or not you choose to listen to it is completely up to you. But once you start to, very hard to ignore.
My goodness. And I can see this. So as you paint this, paint it so freaking clearly, because I remember doing a reel some time back, and like, the energy, why did nobody tell me that desperation is not sexy? And it's that whole idea of what you're kind of saying. If you want to attract this stuff, if you want to magnetize all this awesome stuff to you, it starts from recognizing the energy with which you are working and playing. Are you in that needy, desperate, like scarcity, lack energy because you're looking outside of you to fulfill that? Or actually you so filled up from the inside with that desire that you are like overflowing? And that does just so exciting to me, to be able to kind of, when you say to somebody, and with the work that you do, you're like, it's so empowering, because when you can fill up when you know that everything you need is inside of you, you can wake up that desire, you are creating purely from yourself. That is so freaking empowering in every area of your life. So when we're waking this fire up then, and this first step is like, we're going to wake this fire up inside of you, like this desire is inside of you. And I think, you touched on it a minute ago, not everybody's listening. So it has to become like, I'm assuming it's a very conscious practice of waking this fire up and doing that internal listening. But what does that look like in terms of the actually, like, at the root level, the kind of work that you're doing? Like, what is it you're doing with people to wake up this fire inside of them?
Yeah, it's such a good question. So I think the first thing is there has to be a devotional element to it. So we're going to go a little bit esoteric here, but if you think about a lot of people, the relationship that they have with the divine when they're young is that the divine is this sky daddy. He's going to take care of everything. Like, pray to me and I'll make it happen, right? It's very much, can I have that thing? Can I, it's like a kid in a candy store. Can I have more of this? Can I have this toy? And we get into this relationship where it feels very comfortable to ask, to receive, to say thank you. Okay, fine. Well, you get to a certain point in your life where you start to recognize and almost desire, right? You have this urge to create your own outcomes. You want to be a co-creator with divinity. So what happens when you recognize that you start to realize the law of attraction and all the other beautiful laws, and you recognize your place in creating? Now, all of a sudden, do you just stop knocking on Daddy God's door, right? Like, you can't just, you can, but when you do that, you lose this beautiful relationship that you have, because now you feel uncomfortable. You're like, well, I don't just want to go say hi. Like, I don't need anything anymore. Where does this serve this purpose? And I don't know if you guys have ever seen the movie Twilight, but in the movie Twilight, in the Twilight series, there's this whole idea that one of the characters, Jacob, he's a werewolf. I know it's suspension of disbelief, folks. Okay. And hold on one second. I've got a kiddo in here. Sorry. Oh, I'm getting tea. And so thank you so much. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Erogetics in action. Husband brings and so there's this part where he actually imprints on this baby. And everybody's like, oh, like that means that you got, and he's like, yeah, I know, but for now, I'm going to be her uncle. And someday when she's of age, I will become her partner. So where am I going with all this? So this divinity that you've been praying to, that is like the daddy, one day it's like, oh, that's my partner. That is my life partner. That's the king to my queen, or the queen to my king if you're a man, or someone who identifies as a male. And so what that means is that when we move into this partnership, this is our recognition of the duality of self. Now, stay with me for a second. This is deep, but we're gonna land there. So if you've ever read the book, The Untethered Soul, the gentleman who wrote it, that I can't think of his name, is it up there? Nope. The gentleman who wrote it, he talks about how every part of us is, we're witnessing the parts of us, but the part that witnesses is the self. Okay. That is the central place. It's where we're noticing the thoughts. We aren't the thoughts. We notice the mind having the thoughts. Well, when it comes to the self has two parts. The self has the conscious part, which in my case, we call the goddess. And then the inner masculine is the duality of that. So it's still the self, but it's split into these two components. Okay. So when you look at your relationship with divinity, what you're essentially doing is you're now taking that relationship from the dad to almost, okay, now I'm ready to be your partner. Now we're ready to move into, wait for it, Heroes Gamos, holy matrimony. And so in this inner connection, we are able to experience love, because when it's us doing it, we don't feel it. It's hard to feel self-love. When you create an aspect to feel the love from, to give and to receive, there's that channel, right? And so when we connect to that energy, the first thing is devotion, right? You've ignored me all this time. Do you really want to get to know me? And so it's quiet reflection, it's rituals, it's sitting, it's connecting, and then deepening that connection. What does this energy, not what does it look like, but what does it feel like? What does it want to say? What is its expression? How does this part of you that loves you want to make itself known? And before you know it, yes, you start to have conversations, true conversations internally, where you're having these dialogues of devotion, of love, of protection, of validation. But guess what? You don't need it externally anymore. And so instead of at the end of the night coming to your partner and being like, I just had 10 clients today and I'm so exhausted, and I just need you to hold me. And maybe he's had a really hard day, and maybe he's exhausted, and maybe he needs you to hold him. And so what happens? Two broken people come together and neither one of them is in a capacity to help the other. But when you come at the end of the day and you've already had a conversation, you've already filled yourself up, and you're like, oh my gosh, today was a whammy, but you know what? Let's watch a movie. Let's get close. I missed you. Like, we've been away all day. Like, let me come back to this place. And so essentially the relationship with the inner masculine, with the sacred masculine, is a completion, right? It's that other side of the energy so we can experience it. The relationship with your partner is a complement. It's the bonus, the cherry on top.
Literally, that is this wholeness that I think I get so excited about when you talk about this work, because it's this wholeness within yourself and not needing to feel like you're going to be completed outside of you. And if every single person watching this recording could get to that place where you feel so whole in and of yourself, because you know these divine aspects of yourself and you are having those intimate conversations within self, imagine not only the impact that that has in your relationships, with your kids, with your partner, but the ripple effects that has. And in terms of the work that we're doing here, and the people that we're calling into this summit, they are leaders, they are the visionaries, they're the conscious women, they're the ones who we know it, we're all here to make impact in some way, shape, or form. But if we are whole, if we are able to do this work inside of ourselves, then it goes so much further. It has just such a massive ripple effect that will change the world. And that just gets me so excited. So, you've touched on there, as you say, there's kind of like there's the esoteric beat, and there's a bit, some of you might sit in this, might need to go, I just rewind that and play that again, because it's deep stuff, but we're not here for the surface level stuff. Like, if you wanted surface level, that's over there somewhere. It's not here. That's not where the conversation's at. So we've got, there's so much to kind of, it's wrapping, you might, step one I kind of see is like wrapping your head around the concept. And then step two is this embodiment piece of actually going inside and having this quiet reflection and this practice. And I think, a lot of people on this call will have some kind of practices in place in terms of self-reflection. But what is understanding that, I'm a massive believer that when it comes to this personal growth piece, this personal transformation piece, you have to follow the next nudge, like the next piece. Don't stay stuck in the pattern or the rituals that you're currently doing. And what's so exciting about this work is that I've not heard about it very much anywhere else. So when I was like, I came across AmyLee on Facebook, I was like, oh, we have to talk, because this is another facet to this expansion piece into your internal work, like the work that we get to do. So you talked about, as you say, the reflection piece and the going inside and having these kind of conversations. I bet it's, having been on the receiving end of this yourself, as you were doing this practice, I bet it was just like so revolutionary to start to be witnessing what was coming through in these conversations.
It's so interesting you say that, because there's a book that I was reading. It's called the Sutras, and it talks about this idea, and I'm going to butcher the words, but there's a word in Buddhism that essentially means someone who has been made aware of hidden truths. So what I believe, and according to this book that believes it too, this information has been obscured for thousands of years for whatever reason, because humanity wasn't ready for it, because the level, if you look at spiral dynamics, we weren't at that place. We weren't in identity consciousness. We weren't aware of these pieces. And so it wasn't even that it fell out of style. It was that it was completely obscured. It was like it was wiped from consciousness. And then all of a sudden, people start to have these downloads, people like me, which bring this back into the forefront. And if you look, and I'm telling you right now, thanks to the reticular activating system, you're going to go all over Facebook and social, you're going to see the word Eros everywhere right now, because there are so many of us getting these awarenesses. And luckily for me, I was smart enough to trademark Erogetics, right? But this idea that this is coming into the forefront. And so you're hearing it from me, but you're going to hear it from someone that you're like, hey, I heard it from this lady, but now this coach that I've been following forever is talking about it. Because this, what I call the erogetic spark, that life force energy, is what is going to carry us into this next dimension. It's what's really reminding us, why did we come here? We are divinity. Yes, we're divinity in the masculine, we're divinity in the feminine, but if we've got it all, if we own it all, then what is the purpose of coming here to be a human? And the answer is this: it's to have these experiences, it's to be lit up from the inside out by life. And that is why we're here. And the more we become aware of that, and the more we make that our focus, and that what we're doing, instead of all the edifice, instead of all these, momentary little climaxes here and there, which we call climax consciousness, where it's like, I just want to get 10,000 people on Instagram. And we're like head down in all of these things. The more we come back to the moment, the more we come back to that seed of desire, the closer we're going to get to that actualization, and maybe moving on to wherever it is we go from here, right? Wherever we ascend to, whatever the next school is. But I do believe that this has been the missing piece. I mean, we're talking about the fountain of youth. This, I have seen years fall off of my clients' faces. They don't even look like the same person. We can't say disease disappears, but disease no longer hangs around, right? When you stop making this life force energy, the parts of you, they kind of start to die off. They kind of start to rot. They no longer, they're not like well oiled, if you will. And when we do this, we're starting to bring that back to the forefront. We're creating more wholeness, more abundance, more money, more passion, all these things. And we're becoming these beautiful lights of abundance instead of these shriveled little creatures that are just like, mine, give me, give me, give me. And so I genuinely believe that this is transformational for my clients, but also for the world, because people are going to be popping up in all different capacities in the next year, in the next 5 years, doing this work with different names, with different concepts. But the concept is, the essential, the meat of it is still the same. It's about harnessing that life force energy, squeezing everything you can out of it, and really embodying the human experience.
I literally got the full body goose pimples again, because if for everyone watching, you'll have seen some other, obviously other trainings in this summit, and there's this beautiful thread about remembering that is coming up. And as you were talking there, the idea, we are going through this new awakening, we're going through this new ascension. Everyone here who recognizes themselves as a light worker, or as somebody here who's raising the vibration of the planet, you will absolutely see what AmyLee is talking about, and these rememberings around this type of work, because we are moving into this new age where we are being called back to our truth and back to this piece. So oh my goodness, it's so beautiful. And I feel like me and you could chat about this for ages. But what I would love to know, so in terms of the work, you shared about this self-reflective process, this conversation in and of itself. I would love to know, from your experience with working on clients with this, you've mentioned it's dropping age of people, it's helping them to reconnect with their partners. Obviously, like, it has so many benefits. I'd love for us to talk a little bit more about this, and kind of how you see this rippling out in the work that you're doing.
Yeah, well, I think that the more that people don't need things outside of themselves, we're going to see consumerism shift dramatically, right? Like, think about how many people are convinced on a daily basis that they need this in order to feel better. The whole beauty industry is surrounded by that, right? I mean, we've got, and I'm guilty of this too, because I have 5 little kids, but like filters, we all want to see this perfect side of ourselves. But if we know internally that we are so loved and so desired, like, what else do we need, right? So we are going to start to see consumerism shift dramatically. Maybe these hundreds of warehouses full of stuff are going to find their way into something beautiful. We're going to see more people aligning with what truly works for them, as opposed to what they've been told will work for them. We're going to see more people staying married. We're going to see people fixing their problems sooner than later, maybe less sexual adventurism, because I think a lot of times people are just like, I just need more. And it's like, if they could create that internally, then it wouldn't necessarily be a need. Yeah, I mean, I think the sky is the limit to what this, we're talking like world peace, right? Because if you know in your heart that you're awesome, do you need to go take over another country? Probably not. Maybe you just go and look at the country you have and you're like, wow, this is beautiful. We've got everything we need. I'm just so grateful. I'm validated from the inside out. So I genuinely believe that, it's funny, because for the longest time I was like, how come I don't have a thing? How come and then it was like, all of a sudden it dropped in and I was like, oh, okay. You've been grooming me for this since I was a little girl. Okay. Yep. Got it. Okay. Thank you. Yep. So it's here.
But I think that, with that piece there, like, you had to be ready for it, right? You had to be open enough to receive that. And I think what's beautiful about everybody here who's watching this is that you've come to this summit for a reason. You are watching this conversation for a reason, because there is something you are being called to take away from, some lessons here, some remembering. There's something that's gonna, you get a choice to action off the back of this. So I would love to kind of, talk a little bit about how people can come and play in your world. Like, what does that look like? Like, come and play with you, AmyLee? How do they do that? Where can they find you?
So for you guys, I have a free masterclass that I recorded all about Erogetics that you guys can binge on. It was 5 days and people were losing their ever-loving minds. There's a Telegram chat attached to it, so you probably hear about that somewhere in there, and you guys are more than welcome to join, even though the actual masterclass is over. People loved the community so much we decided to leave it open. But also, I'm going to leave you guys a little scavenger hunt. If you can find me on social and you can message me, I have a sacred masculine audio that I channeled that just came into my head one day, and I decided to record it. And it's potent. It's about 3 minutes long, but it will absolutely activate that seed if it's not already active for you. So if you are so inclined, you're listening to this, you're watching this, and you're like, oh, I need that, come find me on social and I will make that available to you. Just for this summit, though.
God, I love it. It's so cool.
Rain's
I mean, I need it for starters. I'm like, I need that. I want that. I want that. I love that. I love that. So go find AmyLee on socials. I would love to just kind of to round this up beautifully and kind of like just to finish us off. I truly believe, and we were chatting about this earlier, that everything that's come through in the summit, everything that's coming through in the session today is because it's here to be heard, that people are ready to hear what's being spoken into existence. So are there any final messages, thoughts that you would like to leave our participants with today?
So the things that you desire, the things that you want, the things that you want to create in this world, the ones that you feel guilty about, or you feel like, who am I to want this? I want you to understand that that spark of divinity that's inside of you, that sacred masculine, those desires are actually the desires of him. And you are the vehicle through which those desires are going to be realized. So if you're wondering, who am I to have this? Why do I feel like this? Like, I'm not the person. You wouldn't have them if they weren't meant for you. And so I want you to feel almost like the things that have dropped into your heart that you want to create in this world, think of them almost like gifts, like opening these presents that are like, I got this for you. I wanted this for you. I want you to have this, because that is actually what's happening. You are going to live out the whims and the needs and the desires of the divine by virtue of your human experience. So hopefully somebody needed to hear that, because it sounded like they did.
Oh my God, like it so needs to be heard. I was breathing it all in. So thank you so much, AmyLee. It's been an absolute pleasure, my delight to have you here with us today. So thank you for your time, energy, and wisdom. We really appreciate it. And to everybody else watching, thank you for your time and energy, and I will speak to you all again super soon. Bye bye for now.